Hi, everybody. My name's Albatross. Thanks for coming and listening. This presentation I've been working on for over a month now, with the exception of a week in between when I went traveling. But I've added a couple things to it, and it's expanded. It's gotten bigger, and I expect it'll just get bigger and bigger. So I thought I decided to break it up into individual parts, individual videos, while I continue doing the research, because more and more keeps developing the more I look into it. But I wanted to inform you guys ahead of time. I will be developing a new YouTube channel. I'll let you know the details of that when it's done, and that will be focused on religion and politics, while I keep this channel specifically focused on the missing children. But anywho, without further ado, we're going to begin by talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson. For short, I'll just refer to her as Judge Jackson, if I can, Judge Jackson. And then you can see the other topics in the next 4 parts I'll be going over. And part 2 hopefully will be out either this evening or tomorrow. But Judge Jackson. So this woman, I had very high hopes for her when Biden first elected her on when she got elected and sworn in to serve on the Supreme Court. She was the first black woman ever to be elected on the Supreme Court, and it really resonated with everybody. It was like such a breath of fresh air. It was like finally we see maybe somebody who gets elected, not just because they're, we all know the same type of persons usually appointed in those positions, older white gentlemen. So, I mean, it is what it is. But, it was like such a breath of fresh air for us all to see, that, myself included, that we got sidetracked by what the ultimate agenda behind Biden appointing her to begin with. But the more, you learn about her, the more time has gone on since that day in the last 4 years, 3.5 to 4 years. She's really shown her true colors, the kind of person she is, what agendas she supports, what she doesn't support, what she cares about, what she doesn't care about. And as far as what she cares about, I really couldn't tell you. I just know that she does not care about the well-being of children in general, as a whole. But if I'm wrong, I have yet to see proof that I'm wrong on that opinion. But she does have a very good background. She graduated Harvard with her doctorate in law in 1996. And since her career began in criminal justice and law, she has shown a systematic pattern of being lenient towards child predators, child sex offenders, etc. She very strongly seemed to support Joe Biden and all of his agendas. It's very odd to me that just a couple months ago, not that long ago, back in September, when she was on the Stephen Colbert show, she was expressing that she was concerned. She had deep concerns about Donald Trump's presidential pardons. Now, I'm not sure if she was referring to the pardons that he did when he, the first time he served, or the pardons that he was planning on doing when he got into office. I'm assuming she meant the older ones. I'm not really sure which ones she meant. But either way, she was expressing deep concerns about that. But keep in mind that at this point, Joe Biden had already broken the record for the most presidential pardons just at this point. He had already broken that record. So, you know, but when they were questioning her about her background in child porn offenders and sentencing them, it appeared there was some, like, big discrepancies. Like, she was giving them much more mild sentences compared to other, like, compared to the average, which I think has long been pretty, some would say it's outdated, but I don't even like to use that term, because I don't think it was ever not outdated, so I don't like that term. It was never really good, the standards we use when we sentenced child predators. Like, I mean, come on, they barely get anything. They make more money than when they do when they distribute drugs. More money, yet less jail time. So it's almost like, in a business aspect, like, you made their job so much easier. But anywho, I digress. Her reasoning, Judge Jackson, is that being that times have changed and people can access child porn and more amounts of it is available, therefore the sentencing should be more reduced. That's her reasoning. Yeah, that's her reasoning. You know, not... See, in my mind, I'm no criminal justice expert, but, if I'm thinking as far as, like, balance or whatnot, if we're talking about balance, then let's talk about it. Let's talk about why there's such an influx in the amount of child porn that is available. Because she's making it sound like the computers just magically produce more child porn. No, it's because there's more child porn being made. It's like, so that's a problem. That means there's more of it. That means it's getting worse. So your solution is to make the sentences smaller to compensate for the fact that there's more of it, instead of addressing why that there's more child porn out there that's available. Like, do I sound crazy? Am I the crazy one? I dare someone to tell me that I'm crazy. I dare someone. It is evil characters like this woman here. And I'm sorry, no matter which way you cut it, it's evil in my mind. It's evil. Because usually when people go and, like, do a job, they're usually going, like, no matter what job you do, people usually fall within two categories. The people that are there just to make a paycheck and go the fuck home. Or there's the people who are there to make a difference. Now, I mean, sometimes the difference is something that they want to make, or maybe it's someone else paying them to make, either way, which would be a plant. But either way, it usually falls into those two categories. And the latter being, there's two subcategories. There's the ones that go into their job or career with their own agenda, or someone else's agenda. But either way, they have an agenda. And clearly, if there is a discrepancy between her sentencing and that of the national average, there's some kind of agenda here. Like, if she's lenient on these particular types of crimes, there's some kind of a weird agenda. Now, either she's just evil, like I said, either she's just a straight up evil psychopath, or she's doing it because she has to. I'm sorry. I don't see it any other way. We could sugarcoat it and use all the little logical fallacies we want. But child porn's evil. There's no arguing that. So any excuse to make it easier for these predators to get away with it, any excuse is evil. I'm sorry, it is. I mean, we need to stop, like, with letting our judgment being clouded. There are children getting hurt, getting manipulated, getting exploited. But what do I know? Because because once again they want to make it a left-right thing. The media does, rather than just a simple, like, why couldn't, like, if I don't understand something, like, just because your party backs somebody doesn't mean that person. That's a logical fallacy. That's appealing to authority. That's a false dilemma. It's so many logical fallacies. So, like, I just don't get it. Why the media is so determined to make every single situation, every right-wrong situation, a red-blue situation. Like, what the hell? Like, stop. But they don't stop. They don't ever rest. When all this was being talked about, all these articles came out to say that specifically the Republican Party was, exaggerating. They were just exaggerating. And not just that they were exaggerating, but that Judge Jackson and her sentences for child porn offenses were pretty mainstream. That's what they said. They said they were mainstream compared to other sentences of similar crimes. That's what all these media things were saying. Let's see how she justifies it, or how these articles justify it. Supreme Court confirmation hearings for Judge Jackson opened this week amid a flurry of misleading allegations by Republican Senator Josh Hawley that the nominee has a long record of letting child porn offenders, quote, off the hook. Now, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that this same senator, was at first open, like, and welcoming of her, had his support. I mean, until he looked into all this. And it says, in every single child porn case for which we can find records, Judge Jackson deviated from the federal sentencing guidelines in favor of the child porn offenders. And you see, and if you look at a lot of these headlines, they'll say a lot of misleading things. Like, this senator was saying she totally let them all off the hook. No, that's not what he said. He said that her sentencing was in favor towards the offender. That's what he said. Highlighting 9 cases from her time as a federal district court judge. And the funny thing is, not really funny, but kind of like a side-eye moment, where after all of this, come to find out that they even left off one of these sentences of hers off this record that he didn't even see when all this happened. That was even worse than all of those 9. And yeah, we'll read a little excerpt from that in a minute. I'm not going to even consider reading that whole thing, because I looked at it briefly, and it is so appalling and so disturbing and so disgusting. But I will link the case below if you yourself want to go read it. However, that's not something... I'm not going to drain myself reading that. But I will link it for you guys to go read. But it's appalling. It's absolutely appalling. And she, like... Gosh, she really did go lenient on this guy. She even, like, refused to, like, look at other evidence other than what was included. And according to the probation officer, that other evidence was horrible compared to what she was already looking at. And that was already pretty bad. So, woo! It's bad. I mean, the excerpts from whatever website these pedophiles were using for this conversation with this guy, they were so cavalier. They were just so cavalier about these children, and it was like the charge for admission was almost like they had to share pictures of other children and things like that. And they were just so cavalier about it, about daycare workers selling these photos. So parents, please be careful what daycare you send your children to, if you send them at all, because I'm telling you, they put plants in there. They do. I heard of one case where it was like a girl who was barely 18, and she was selling pictures on the dark web of kids in her care. It was awful. This is happening everywhere. But anyways, with all this, as far as Judge Jackson is concerned, and these cases that the senator had concerns with, their biggest defense was, well, you backed someone who did similar sentences when Trump appointed him. You know, that was like their biggest defense, which is another logical quite a few logical fallacies. First of all, it's a red herring. It's diverting from his original argument. You mean, at this point, none of that's relevant. What's relevant is this are we gonna stand for this or not? You know what I mean? It's like, and he even admitted, he said, well, if I did that, that was a mistake and I didn't know it. He said, if I'd known it, I wouldn't have done it. So are we going to do something different now? Or are we just going to keep, using that as an excuse? Well, you did it, so it's okay. Another logical fallacy, appeal to authority. And look at this. The typical imposed sentences are around 30 months below the calculated guideline minimum for most judges. And that's already bad enough. That's already bad enough. But they're using that as the basis for their argument. Another fallacy, a genetic fallacy. Right, is that the same fallacy? I think it is. Basically, where just because we've been doing it, we're going to keep doing it just because we've been doing it means it's okay. That's a great way to evolve. But yeah, and then we find out that there were cases that were omitted in the document she gave to the senators. Even after all that, there was still a case that she omitted. And it was that one I was telling you about, the really appalling one that had over 6,000 different either pictures or paraphernalia or something to do with child porn. And that was just what was in evidence. There was more. And that whole sheet that she provided was the basis of the argument that she should be, that should be ignored. It was the basis for the argument. And it wasn't even true. There was a case omitted from it. And according to Judge Jackson, policy disagreements with the guidelines concerning the offensive level enhancements for use of computer and number of images, meaning that, it had to even out. Like I was saying earlier, that simply that because it's easy to receive and possess and distribute child porn electronically, that it's imbalanced. Like saying it's not their fault they can access more of it. And their argument wasn't even true. When you look at all of her cases compared to the national average, look, there's an almost 50% discrepancy between what she sentences to what the national average sentences in both possession and distribution of child pornography. I mean, look at that. She has been another key player, just one out of many, Just one out of many agents of chaos trying to confuse and has enhanced the exploitation of children. Like, that's not on her list of priorities, is to be concerned about why there is such an influx of child porn. I mean, yeah, the computer makes it easy, but it also means that more of it is being made. More of it is being made than ever before. Than ever before. People don't realize that this is going on so much. Oh, and yeah, her criminal cases aren't much better. You know, just saying. And this is a woman who's supposed to, you know, be a Supreme Court justice. This is who Biden wanted. And it all makes sense now. It all makes sense now. Maybe it didn't then at the time. But now that we see what's going on with the distribution of child pornography, with the sex child trafficking ring, they're making it easier. They're giving them more lenient sentences. And here's a little excerpt from the Kane case that Judge Jackson forgot to add in her spreadsheet. Very unprofessional, by the way, Judge Jackson. That was very unprofessional. Especially for a judge. On a federal level. Okay. So, Kane had files containing over 6,500 files depicting children who appeared to be of elementary, middle, and high school ages engaged in sexual acts or posing sexually. This was like, keep in mind, this is like one of her most lenient sentences. Like I said, I'll link it below if you want to go look at it. On that same day at 2:48 p.m., Nicholson posted a file that depicted a prepubescent naked male holding his naked penis and an adult female touching his penis. So yeah, if you want to look at the rest of it, you can, but it gets very disturbing very quick. So, trigger warning before you go look at it. But I will be back later with part 2. So thank you guys for listening.
And he wants us to stop looking? How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million. $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants. All illegal, I believe.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.